And welcome back. We're going to take a look at midpoint, and we're actually not going to look at distance. I made distance in a new video because I want to focus more on distance by itself. It gets a little bit more complicated and we deal with some messy numbers. So just going to focus on midpoint. By now we should know what midpoint is. It's the halfway point in a segment. So we're going to go right into an example since we already know what midpoint is. And in this example we have endpoints A and B. We want to know the coordinate of the midpoint. Okay, simply count 1, 2 in, 1, 2 in. It's right at -1. Okay, so that's our midpoint. -1 would be our midpoint. Now, yes, you can count, but we don't always want to have to count, especially when we're dealing with big numbers, negatives, positives. So we want to come up with how we actually did that. And what we did is you kind of found an average. The midpoint is the average between 2 points. So if you're trying to figure out an average between maybe 2 test scores, you would say, okay, I'm going to take test 1 plus test 2 and divide by 2. Same idea here. You're going to take point A plus point B, divide by 2. Okay, we did -3 plus 1 and divided by 2. That gets you -2 over 2 or -1. So quickly, our one-dimensional, because we're just talking about one direction, not the band, we're looking at A plus B over 2. You're looking at an average of 2 points. Now when we move into two-dimensional or two directions, now you're looking at X and Y. Okay, in a coordinate, you have two directions you can go. Nothing really changes. We just have to add something. Okay, so there's two ways we can look at the midpoint. We're looking at 2 points in this grid. We're looking at where the midpoint is. So you can kind of count and go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so if you go up 4, you know you're only gonna have to go up 2, and you're gonna go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you went up 4 over 10. The midpoint of that would be going up 2 over 5. Okay, or right here. That's the midpoint. You can see it's halfway between those two spots. So the first way you can do it is by counting. Counting isn't very efficient, as we talked about in the first one. The second way you can do it is algebraically. Okay, this is going to be the more efficient, the quicker way to do this. So, just like you did in A plus B divided by 2, finding the average of those 2 points, now what you're going to do is find the average 2 different times, because we can move up in y's, we can move over in x's. So to find the midpoint formula, again, when we're dealing with a coordinate plane, it's going to be some x comma y. What we have to do is take our average of our x's, so x1 plus x2, or test score 1 plus test score 2 divided by 2, it's an average, and then take our average of our y's. So if we tested it here, we're looking at this point is -4, -2. This point is 6, 2. We go ahead and say, okay, average of our x's, so x1 plus x2, it doesn't matter which one's which. We would say, okay, so we have -4 plus 6 over 2. And then for our y's, we're going to have -2 plus 2 over 2. Reduce that to 2 over 2, 0 over 2. Finally reduce it to 1, comma 0, which in fact was our midpoint when we counted it. We want to go with algebraically. We do not want to count. We do not want to have to sit there and count on our fingers up and down as we go through that. So let's look at a couple of examples. It'll get a little bit trickier than that. Not too bad though. Use the given information to draw a diagram and find the coordinates of M. It's important that you draw a diagram. This one will be easy, but this next one won't be as easy. So, excuse me. Use the given information to draw a diagram and find the coordinates of M. M is the midpoint of Ln. Okay. Again, we're going to draw a segment. We deal with segments a lot. We know M is the midpoint. We have L. We have N. Okay, L is negative 2, 5, and N is 4, 2. If you wanted to, you could draw a full coordinate plane, but it's really not necessary. Okay, we know that this is x1, this is y1, x2, y2. So we're going to follow our formula, which tells us take the average of our x's over, or comma, rather, not over, the average of our y's, and that's going to be our midpoint. So it shouldn't be too bad. Take x1, which is negative 2, plus y1, or x2 rather, over 2, and take the average of our y's, 5 plus 2, over 2. Again, simplify, so we have negative 2 plus 4 is 2, 2 over 2 is 1. We have 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 over 2 has to stay like that. Again, leave them as fractions in geometry unless I say otherwise or you hear otherwise. So that's our midpoint, simple as that. Okay. With example 4, it's not quite as easy. So if you're working ahead, hold on a second. It's a little bit different. There's a hard way to do this one. There's an easy way to do this one. I'm just going to show you the easy way. If you find the hard way, that's just fine. Use the given information to draw a diagram and find the coordinates of J. Okay, so we're looking at something a little bit different. Get your points down. And we have R is the midpoint of JO. This time we want to find J, not that midpoint, so it's going to be a little bit different. We have R is 3, 10. We have O is 20, 8. Now you can make this hard, you can make this easy. You can try and use the formula and do it that way, but if you draw yourself a picture and look at it, you can figure out exactly what the midpoint is. To go from 20 to 3, I have to take away 17. So if I go from O to R, I'm taking away 17. To go from R to J, since it's the midpoint, I have to take away 17 more. So 3 minus 17 is negative 14. So the x-coordinate of J is negative 14. To go from 8 to 10, I have to add 2. Make sure you're doing it in the right direction. You're not subtracting 2, you're adding 2 to go from 8 to 10. So to go keep going, you would add 2 more to get to 12 here. Okay, so we take 10 plus our 2 more is 12. Okay, that's the easy way to do it. There is an algebra way to do it. You can make it very complicated. This is much more quick, or much quicker rather, and it's a lot easier to do. So again, look at where you are. You're starting at 20 on O. To go from 20 to 3, you have to subtract 17. So to go from R to J, you have to subtract 17 more. When you're at O's, the y coordinate in O, you're at 8. To go from 8 to 10, you add 2. Okay, then go from R to J, you have to add 2 more, which is why you're at 12. Okay, so your final answer, J is right here, negative 14, 12. Okay, so you have both those that you'll get. You'll get both of those type problems on the test, the quizzes and the test, so you'll see those again. Try and work ahead on example 5 and 6. See if you can do it without me. If you want to fast forward and check the answers, that's fine. If you'd like to rewind and watch it again, do that. So if we look at example 5, use the given information to draw a diagram and find the coordinates of Q. Q is the midpoint of MZ. So draw yourself a picture. That's where it all starts. So you get to draw a lot of pictures in geometry. And I know you can draw them, because if I can draw them, you definitely can draw them. I'm not very good at drawing. Okay, we know that M is negative 4, 5, and Z is 6, 7. Okay, we want to find out what Q is. So to find Q, this is one that we're going to want to do algebraically. You can do it by counting kind of like we did the last one. It's not quite as easy. I'd rather just do algebra here. So we're going to go ahead and say x1 plus x2 over 2, comma y1 plus y2 over 2 to find midpoint. So negative 4 plus 6 over 2, comma 5 plus 7 over 2. So it's going to become negative 4 plus 6 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, 5 plus 7 is 12, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay, so Q is 1 comma 6. Number 6, again a little bit tougher. It's like the example 4 that we did. So again, see if you can work ahead and try it. So we have a diagram. Again, draw yourself a good one. And we have B as the midpoint of AC. This time, again, this is the weird one. We have to find C. It actually ends up almost being easier than the formula one. So B is the midpoint of AC. And we have A at 1, comma 5. We have B at negative 3, comma 10. Okay. So to look at this, all we're going to have to do is count to find the coordinates of C, to go from 1 to negative 3. Think about what you have to do. How do you get from 1 to negative 3? You have to subtract 4. So to go from A to B, you subtract 4. So to go from B, I'll make this a little bit more clear. To go from B to C, you have to subtract 4 more. So we're going to take negative 3 minus 4 more, or plus a negative 4. We're at negative 7 now. Okay, to go from your y coordinate in A to B, you have to go from 5 to 10. Okay, so to go from B to C here, you have to go 5 to 10, you're adding 5. Okay, so to go from B to C in your y, you're going to take 10 plus 5 more, 15. I'm using Christmas colors. There is your final answer. Okay, again, take a look at anything else you need to. Rewind, go back over anything. This is all we're looking at today. Distance is going to be a little bit trickier tomorrow, so be prepared for that. Have a great night.